Live with no play. And a big hey now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Hello, Fast Abdul. I am Crispy Man, and this is my friend, Fast Abdul. And we are here to say
here for
hey
the
now.
tech.
That's right, here for the tech. I see 13 viewers. That's exactly how many we needed, Christopher. And thank you for joining. And a big hey. Hey, Frank White's here. All right. We get this party started. Johnny Chaos was already here, man. I'm already feeling the chaos.
Tam's here.
Oh, yeah. I can't forget Tam. Tam's here. We're good to go.
Frank White.
How's everybody feeling? Good out there.
You guys are feeling good, Crispy.
They're feeling crispy. They're feeling pretty crispy right now, I bet.
Yep. There's been some green days. I'm celebrating with my green-esque background.
Oh, see them. You can see that I have my HEX Pulse background going here, but for some reason it's poop brown, so that's probably not green. You know, maybe I can change. Maybe I can change it. Maybe I can change it. You know, maybe I'll do that another time. But well, I think maybe one of the things I want to do right away. Let me throw up a chart. We'll take a look at this. It was funny. You know, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. You know, about the buy signals that came in on HEX, and I'm usually pretty quiet about stuff, you know, but I couldn't not bring this up, and now that it actually came true, now I feel like I got to take credit for it. Let's see.
It totally did come true. Yeah, you have bragging rights on this one.
Yes, I get a little bit of bragging rights, right? And then all you sell pressure, all you sell pressure out there, what's up? Hey, so you know, I follow something called the golden ratio. Some people are tired of hearing about that, but the golden ratio did call out 1, 2, 3, 4 HEX buy signals before the pump. Sometimes it ends up being more. Each successive buy signal is basically saying, hey, based on the numbers, the TA, this doesn't account for big heavy hands that come in and do stuff. That you could take an even stronger position the further that you go down, but you know, basically lowering your average cost into something. And this works for a lot of different tokens. It worked really well for this one this time. And so for HEX, we had gotten those signals. Last time we had gotten 5 signals in a row. We did see approximately a you know, an 8.5x. So a 753% increase, and that's going back in December of 24. Now we have 4 of them that came in, and so far we've seen about a 3x, a little bit over a 3x on HEX. Now dips are in the game. Got to remind everybody of that, right? Dips are in the game, and so yeah, these things will happen over time, and you know, we'll just have to watch what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of good talk taking place right now, you know, about where the chain could go, about the advertising, the marketing, you know, what could happen. Listen, you guys got to be mature about this. You know, the fudders are going to FUD, right? The FOMO, the FOMO, and the FOMO people are going to FOMO.
It's getting harder to FUD, though. You know, like that's a significant increase.
Yeah, there always comes a time where you know, all the fudders just shut up because like the voices are so loud against them. It doesn't mean they're wrong though. That's the you know, just because somebody makes an observation. I still remember the guy who made the case to me 100% that HEX had to come down below a penny. And this is when we were up at 15 cents. And I was like, no way, man. It's never going to come down below 10. And then I was like, no, it went below 10. It'll never go below a nickel. And then I was in my head,
Euphoria for
no,
you, right?
it'll never go below 1 penny. So I just say that not because I'm like trying to FUD. I'm just saying, you guys, this is crypto, right? So
Yeah. When
don't
we're in
get.
euphoria, then people will feel like it's not going to come down. You'll feel that way. I'll feel that way, right? Like that's. I don't think we're there yet, but there will
Oh,
be a time.
we're a long way from the top, man.
That's my suspicion as well. Not financial advice.
Miles to go before we sleep. Miles. The key point is going to be is when you do hear some like reasonable voices coming out later on, and they're like, hey, guys, it might be the top, and then there's like this strong chorus of people that like jam you up really hard. I don't want to spend any more time on this because I really don't want to be talking about a bear market, but when that happens, and then a whole bunch of people jam them up and tell them that this time is different, take a step back, make sure you're all set. That's all. Make sure you understand what you're doing, because as soon as they start screaming, this time is different, the price never goes down again. Now, would I like that? I would love that. I would like to see Bitcoin never go below 100,000 again. I'd like to see ETH hit 40K and never come down. I want to see HEX go to 5 and stay there. Yeah. When I say 5,
that all sounds good. Let's just do that instead.
Yeah. So before we get too far into this, I see MVS Crypto out there. Good morning. All right, Frank White, thank you for the little super chat here. Paul Start approves this stream. Woo.
I have a screen to pull up if you like, Crispy, that will show what Frank is talking about.
Okay, let's do that. Be right before that. Let's just give a shout out to MVS. MVS is doing the weekly. Is it just weekly or is it also daily?
I think it's a weekly newsletter. And it's fairly encompassing. You and I make it on there quite a bit. It goes over what's happening on the Pulse chain, what's new, what protocols. Some of the stuff's a little fringy. It's brand new stuff that they talk about, but they also go over the the classics. So it's a good resource.
Oh, sweet, nice. I know I sent him a note today, or him or her. I assume it's a him, but maybe not. About maybe getting that into audio format as well. All right, so let's do. I see we've got a new guest. We're gonna bring Axis Live on board with us here for a moment, but let's bring him on, and then we'll bring Yo Axis. You may not still be here. I don't know. You might have caught him unaware.
Come on, guys, just give me a second. Yeah,
sure.
Yes.
So Fast Abdul, let's switch over to your. I gotta stop sharing so I can actually show your stuff. Woo! So what you got?
This is plsstart.me by Frank White. He's a community member and a dev, and it's a nice link collection for Pulse Chain. Right, just because it's on here doesn't mean it's trusted, but a lot of the things on here are things that we know. So we got internet money, Pulse wallet, ledger, etc. Like there's categories. So that's a wallet category, LP farming category, right? Would have things we recognize, Phex, ink printer, emit, etc. And then like it has kind of most of the things that you would likely need in a link collection that's easy to use. So I find this is like a good security thing for me to be like, oh, what was that thing? Oh, fiat. Okay, that's under lending and leverage. I'll find it here. And you get a good link that will take you directly to the thing that you wanted to go to. So, it's not that there's not other things that aren't here that I might trust, but like most of the things I trust are on this page. So I just find it to be a good resource. I'm hoping Richard does something like this for PulseX or for one of the official websites. I think it'd be good to have more links that take you to what's going on in Pulse Chain. They got like a HEX category where it shows actuator, as well as all the staking sites for HEX, right? Go HEX, hex.com, HEX Scout. Where's HEXFire? Is that on here? Show all 24.
It might be there somewhere.
Hexfire.io.
I kind of like that it's not Richard doing it. Because the problem, when I say Richard, I mean whoever's responsible for the HEX website. Yeah. I kind of like that it's not done that way. I would like that too, because then they're all there. But the curation really can be, community driven. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be them. Because what's tough about that is how do you keep getting that particular website updated? Well, this one's probably pretty fluid.
What if, yeah, Frank's really on it, but like, what if something like this was linked on the PulseX or PulseChain site? So,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is also good because you don't like when Richard links something, it's seen as an endorsement, even if it's not, which is probably not good. But if like people are like, if he's like, here's a link to stuff that's happening on PulseChain, all right, it doesn't like another site run by another team, it doesn't mean he endorses anything that's on that page. I think that would be a reasonable compromise.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. RH Max, question of the day. What do you think, man? Hex going to
$5.
$5. What are your thoughts?
I think one day, I suppose that could be in the cards. Maybe not this week. The math is that it could go to $5 easier than a lot of things. It's certainly if mega money moved in with the low level of liquidity that we intentionally have right now, we could see a ridiculous bump.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I know everybody wants this. I want this too, right? I want price porn. I do. I want somebody to tell me, Hex is going to $55.55 and yada, yada, yada. So I do like that. But I think your answer is a good question, a good answer. It really depends on the community and what they do. And so if people hold and or stake and they don't sell, then yeah, of course the price can keep going up and go to astronomical numbers. I think it's probably a pretty good bet. I mean, things could happen, but it's probably a pretty good bet it's going to go back to all-time highs. And then from there, what's reasonable after all-time highs? Another 10x, 50 cents to $5. So in terms of like crypto and what crypto does, I mean, the last cycle, ETH did 44x, and that was what, 1, 2, third cycle ish for it. So could we see something different? Yeah, maybe, for sure. All right, Hex again, last in Asia. Good to see you. They bought all the crispy buy signals. Not financial advice. Not financial advice. But I like. I really wish I had those kinds of indicators, like for everything that were right all the time. They were like, hey, do this indicator, and boom, it's I'm going to get, it's the right time for everything. But unfortunately, that's not how things really work. That's not how things really work. Christopher,
you do have good data though. Like hexfire.io has a lot of data for the people who are capable of handling that data. I find it's worth the subscription fee.
yeah, I like it, of course. I like
I
it.
really liked it during the ICOSA days. I hope those days come back because I could actually use
Well,
that
yeah,
data to make money in very short order at that time.
yeah, it was pretty useful to be able to have that, things like know what your ICOSA would be if you turned in an HSI and sold the HSI back and all that kind of stuff. That was all pretty freaking useful. All right, and we have the Axis alive to join us. Hello, Axis.
Hello, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Good.
Getting blown up by the sun.
The hard drugs and out of jail. How about you?
Doing the same.
Nice.
Never really had a trouble with either one of those, but if there's ever going to be a time, it's when Hex hits $5.55.
Oh dear.
Kidding, kids.
55.
I think that is a relevant comment. Like, there might be some millionaires minted who are not like in this cycle in the Hex PulseChain universe who are not prepared for that. So just take it easy, kids, when you get your money.
Through that last cycle where there was a lot of regular Joes that made a lot of money really fast, and yeah, now they don't have it anymore, and it's because of stuff like that. So fair warning. Well, we took all of them out now. So
well, a lot of people might have been staked, and they might have made that on paper, didn't get it anyways, right? So it's almost like a whole restart. Like we're gonna do it all over again.
To that point, I have many a story of people that were saved by Hex staking, believe it or not, that are still staked, that if and everything else they had liquid is gone, they wreck their portfolios. But the thing that they have left is their Hex stakes. So it'd be cool to see, those people win now. So I mean, that's a hell of a marketing thing right there.
Totally. And those people have probably learned a lot from wrecking themselves, like with everything except for their hex stakes that saved them. So second time around, when stakes start coming due, they probably make some better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that big emergency end stake today is rumored to have been the Godwell. And man, did I get my math all screwed up. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking we were getting billions and billions of hex as penalties, but it turned out to be 42 million in penalties that was distributed out to roughly about 42 million, 44 million T-shares.
And so what is that per T-share?
Yeah, it ends up being roughly an additional 1 per T-share. For some reason, I don't know what was wrong with me, man. I thought it was 111. I was like, I went nuts when I saw that, but I think it's just I'm tired.
Yeah, tired from watching the green candles or what?
Yeah, my calculator's broken. Well, I'm working on a couple projects, as you know.
Oh, you are? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Have you talked about them?
No, we haven't done it yet. But let's talk about Liberty Swap. Since you guys are both a little bit more aware of it than I am, what's going on there? I said so. Hex Hodler, right? Talking about Liberty Swap listing Solidex, Solid Index, a bunch of other tokens are up there too, including the cores. And then Fast said he just came off of a stream about this.
Yeah, I was just talking to Max and a special guest about that, and we talked about like kind of how it worked, and there's definitely some conspiracy theory, but like the basic concept is that they have like around $100,000 on PulseChain that's already bridged over, which allows people to swap through that quickly and efficiently. They'll likely increase that number as time goes on, right? So, and that's they've been raising the limits from $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. There'll probably be a day where they have a much higher number, where maybe you can move through 100,000 in one transaction, and they'll have that millions of dollars on PulseChain to cover that immediately, right? There's also been security concerns raised, right? Like, what are these guys doing? Is it a bridge? No, it's not a bridge. They're using the RH bridge primarily. It's kind of weird though, because it's like unknown team, right? Like we didn't unknown to us, right? Though I think these guys have done stuff before, but RH basically, he talked about them before anybody else. What's with that? What does it mean?
What to say, what not to say.
Oh, what do you know? Tell me your secrets.
I don't know. I speculate. I'm a speculator naturally. It's my natural form. But yeah, I've connected enough that I heard of that Big Daddy RH was working on privacy stuff for months in advance of Liberty Swap coming out anyway. So, he may have a hand in it. He may not. It doesn't really matter to me. It's these guys do operate at a high level. Seems like they have some agency and, and so it's
feels like he has a hand in it though, right? Like, he tweeted about it like when nobody knew what it was, and it would be super sketchy for him to do that if he didn't have some sort of knowledge that, hey, this is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get the same feeling as a founder. So obviously, you don't post about stuff that you're unsure of, especially him. He's Mr. Risk Diode himself. So yeah, you might be onto something.
Yep. And it feels like they're carrying out his will a bit, right? Like they're adding, there's some privacy added by the service that they offer. Not like, not to cover guys like you sleuthing, but like the average person would have trouble following what they're doing. And, like they're definitely promoting PulseChain above all others. That's for sure.
Oh, big time. Yep. They're giving us the portal.
I'm waiting. I like, because I like to watch the drama. I love the P-die drops. Like, keep that narrative going, right? And people be fighting and arguing about that. Hey, how about that other protocol that just suddenly appeared? That's a lending protocol.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I was like, what?
So,
where did this
guys,
come from?
Anybody listening, do your own research. We're just talking about stuff that's happening. I don't know.
Three guys on the internet talking about protocols that are getting launched every day, and it's like, who built this? Who built that? There's like, every time that we have an idea, somebody else has it built like within a few hours.
No kidding.
They're stealing our good ideas. Which protocol are we talking about? I really don't know what we're referring to.
Well, so, randomly yesterday, there was a post that came up called Axel _DeFi on Twitter. And apparently it's a lending protocol that you can use all kinds of altcoins. So like they had listed the solid index coins out of the blue, and so that's showing that support to us. And of course, that got my attention. I'm like, what? So then I looked into it, and yeah, you can like take loans against all kinds of cryptos. Like Helgo, obviously Solidex, Axis, the cores. And so I would say if you're out there listening to this, do your own research. Frank White says they're doing cool stuff. It's new to me, so I haven't had time to dig in, but this was something I always wanted for Axis token, was an ability to collateralize your holdings and then borrow against them. So somebody built it, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it a fork of Aave?
No, it's another protocol that it's a fork of, but I don't remember the name offhand. I sent it earlier in the chat, but I don't have it here. But it's coming. It's a fork from Ethereum of another protocol, and I tend to try to stay away from the lending stuff, but I can see where it could be useful, to people. RH Max is saying Cairo Crypto's last video, 10K ETH, $7 hex. I like the $7 hex. I think the ETH is probably low. I don't know. It doesn't really matter whether it's 10 or 12, but I think that's kind of like the minimum. I have seen some new things posted up on X, people talking about 45,000, 55,000 ETH. My high end, just looking at the stuff I look at, is like 34K, 35K. But hey, you know what? With enough interest, any of this could be blown, right? Don't know. Oh no, like Sailor bought $2 billion more worth of Bitcoin today or something, right? So
yeah,
what the hell do I know? I don't have $2 billion. So tomorrow we might hear somebody decided to buy $2 billion worth of ETH to front run the market. Don't know, but I think higher than 4 is probably a good bet.
I mean, Ethereum, it's pointless to try to predict where the top will be for some of these coins, because we're in a totally different epoch now for cryptocurrency. There's so much accumulation now with the strategic reserve narrative now really fully fledged taken off, that you just can't really account for how much supply is going to get absorbed. I think Tom Lee was famously put that Mike Saylor has a sovereign put on fiat because he's got so much Bitcoin now, and that puts him in a position of incredible strength to just keep driving this bull market forward into 26 and beyond potentially. So for Ethereum now, it gets to piggyback off the narrative, and because the supply is this price and supply is at such a fun point right now where there's just not going to be enough for how much demand is coming in. I mean, $8,000 ETH is like the beginning of where you'd start to speculate on how high it will go. So like until we get to like 6 to 8K, a lot of things will come into play, like the force and speed and time frame in which it gets there and how it behaves once it gets there will really tell us where it could go in the following 12 to 18 months.
So for my side project, right, I did a report, kind of a study, and I'll just say this: $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. So 15 years ago, that guy sent 10,000 BTC and bought 2 pizzas. You know what that's worth today? $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. So when we're talking about this stuff, man, we don't know where the hell this could possibly go. It could go so freaking high. And yeah, I know. I'm like everybody else, man. It's like I'm like run down, beat up. I've been mugged 3 times in the alley. I don't know where all the crypto is going to go, but goddamn, that whole idea of toddling, what's especially painful about that is I was alive in 2010, so I wasn't born after 2010, and I had the money to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin if I wanted it, and the means to do it. But I fighted the hell out of it because we all sat around going, it's not possible that this will ever be worth anything. Well, here we are. So what does that mean to me? That means you may not believe 100% everything's going to do what we say, but you probably keep a hodl bag, like keep a little bit of ETH on the side. What if ETH is $1 million someday? What if Bitcoin is $1 million?
And that's a relative conversation for how big you are in crypto.
Yeah.
If you're worth deca millions in crypto, you have a lot of ETH. If you're just starting out and you're buying with, you know, $5,000 from grandma's inheritance, like, yeah, you're not going to be putting that into ETH because that's not going to get you where you want to go. You're better off taking on some leverage in the form of altcoins that are going to actually move. Like, I'm sorry, but 30x isn't enough if you're bringing in 5 to 10 grand. Like, you need hundreds of X's to really capture any serious amount of ETH or Bitcoin long term. And those are kind of like your alpha assets, right? So it's
yeah, because they've been around longer, they're going to have less X's. Yeah.
Well, they're more secure, right? So the more secure something is, the less risk you have to take on, the less gains there is in it, but the more liquidity is there. So that's the catch-22. I like that frame for looking at the altcoin market. It's like, you know, a lot of people complain about low liquidity on coins on PulseChain, but if they have a lot of chart history and a lot of upside has already happened, and you see a recovery forming on low to mid-size liquidity pools, that could be an indication that the thing's going to do another big ripper. So it's not always the case that low liquidity is bad. That's why I think you gotta be able to move with the market and be a little bit dynamic here and be able to assess and take risk appropriately. It's a hard game. Crypto's a tough game, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding when you put the time in. I had somebody ask me
today. There
may
come a day where you can move $10 million into PulseChain and not make that much of a ripple, right? Today's not that day, but you know, the liquidity could grow a lot.
Yeah, well, it's already grown quite a bit. You know, hey, switching a little bit of flavor to this, we saw these emergency end stakes yesterday come through. The emergency end stakes today. I think both of you guys have some strong feelings about HEX emergency end stakes, and I was talking to Johnny Pinata Chaos today about this and just what that means, you know, and you know, how this could look with really high valued HEX, you know. And you were speaking about that a couple of weeks ago, Fast. You know, this idea that we could.
I have my theories.
Feel like recounting those for our viewers a little bit?
Yeah. So I feel like the OA, who has the majority of the HEX stakes right now, could in theory do emergency end stakes as a tactic at some point, both to reward HEX stakers and to rejigger the numbers on what the APR is, right? Like right now, the APR is low inflation, which, you know, will lead to less selling. I think that's the concept. Bull market time, bear market time, the OA may decide that the inflation should be higher to encourage hodling. And, you know, the way to make the inflation higher, the lever that he has to pull is to, you know, unstake some HEX. And the only way to do that, if they're not due, is emergency unstake, a portion of which goes to the most of it would go back to the OA because it's the biggest staker, and it's in the code that half that goes to the OA anyway. But some would go to HEX stakers, and they'd probably feel pretty good about that, considering the size of those stakes. And but then the APR would go up. What do you guys think?
Man, it is so hard to say what's going to happen with the OA stakes. There's a lot of risk for him to emergency end stake anything, and because it kind of counters a lot of the reasons why that was done in the first place. So
why do you think it was done in the first place?
Well, so the reason why all that HEX was staked was to reduce APRs so that it would give us more runway in the bull run, because there'd be less free floating HEX, less inflation. It's pretty simple. If you want prices to go up, you can't give away so much for free. And Inc proved that, because Inc did this crazy move, and then it was just relentless sell pressure.
Down,
yeah, for months and months, for years actually. A lot of the money stayed in the system in Inc and got put into alts in the alt market on PulseChain, but also a lot of the top, I shouldn't say a lot of them, but some very, very large players just kept milking and taking millions out every 2 to 4 weeks out of the system in the form of stables. And so it was just a leaky hole. So what it does in the HEX context is it reduces the amount of pressure that's going to be on the chart the longer we have to go sideways and build up nice movement with real growth alongside of it. So I think there could come a time in the future when, you know, years from now, when some certain price targets are met on Hex where that OA can end stakes early to reward loyal users. But at this time, that's not shouldn't even be a figment of the imagination of the key holder, you know, because
other stakers could end to reward, and they wouldn't be OA stakes.
Right. And the counterpoint to that, to Crispy's point, is these guys that are going to be emergency end staking this cycle to take out profit are going to be feeding so much back into the OA's pocket. So it's another form of removing user supply.
There's a lot.
Good point, Crispy.
Can happen with that. Yeah, on the tip of my head. We got a question for you from the chat, Max, specifically about PHEX and Ehex. If you want to hit that, I know how we feel about it, but what do you think?
So, one of my favorite mega fans, Hex Mining Hodler, thank you for this great question. He says, "Am I still thinking that PHEX plows the forest to make a path for Ehex to hit the power band and rocket through?" So based on what I'm seeing right now, Ehex does trail PHEX, and when PHEX is like the main mover across all of the block, the whole chain, basically, it is the thing that moves the hardest. And when it does that, it does lose. Ehex does lose on the ratio with PHEX like every time, and that's okay because that doesn't mean that that means that the Ehex dollar price can still climb alongside of it. So my speculation is that as you get deeper into the bull run and people are hearing about Hex for the first time, they're not going to care about, they're just going to want to get Hex as fast as possible. So if they don't want to do the due diligence to learn about PulseChain or any of that, they're just going to hit buy on Ehex. It's just going to be like a proxy way to get into Hex because it's still Hex, right? It's just not on PulseChain. And so it could have crazy runs because it is illiquid as hell right now. Like it can just very little impact or lots of little buys can actually add up quite quickly. And I think Crispy's got the data on like how little Ehex is actually held out there anymore. It's much better distributed than PHEX, I would say, because PHEX has just been a more fan favorite. So there's been hoarders on that one.
Yeah, it's been kind of weird. You know, the closer we get to the run up, the less I'm interested I am on the specific numbers. I've been kind of pulling back a little bit with chasing all these little numbers that are out there. But one number I did talk about today, and Hexagon Lost in Asia brought up, T-shirts are getting expensive quick. They are getting expensive in terms of Hex. But okay, what is so like a T-share right now? 1 day T-share is like $420 or something, right? On PulseChain. So that's not super unreasonable. But damn, I was talking with Johnny about this. I'm thinking this, right? So $400 for most of the world is probably okay. For some of the world, way too expensive already. Well, when it's $4,000, who the hell, you know, who's going to buy T-shirts at $4,000? Well, okay, there'll be some people buying them at $4,000. How about $40,000? What if T-shirts are $40,000? What if they're $200,000? You know, at $5. And so all of a sudden it's like, yeah, okay, on paper, this stuff scales, right? And people can just get more and more T-shares. But the higher that dollar price goes, probably the less new money is going to be able to come in and get those T-shares, right? Those T-shares will be generated by people who already have Hex. And it just doubles, it just keeps, you know, like reforming in my mind that I'm going to keep my ladder up, man. I'm not taking my ladder down because I don't think I'll ever be able to get those T-shirts back again.
Time is running out to get liquid Hex at low prices. And once you're past that point, then the only other option is to restake for more T-shares. So yeah, there's a inflection point somewhere, probably around 5 cents, where you just cannot get the quantity of Hex that you once could from simple market buys anymore. And then the only way to really accumulate more in a substantial way is to go stake long and grab those T-shares up. So you can front run it now. You can just buy a bunch now and front run it and get your stakes in earlier so that you're out earlier later on. Or you could play the cycle, which is, you know, so you're going to see a lot of people try that too. So we can't be blind to that as well. But
yeah, we talk about that all the time, man.
I talked to a certain Hex shark who will remain unnamed. Not within my inner circle, but just somebody who's been around since the beginning, that his you know, the very little bit we chat, like the one main thing that he keeps saying is making sure you're keeping up with your t-shirt counts. And so to hear that from somebody that's a hex shark, top of the ladder, right, in the game, it tells me that there's still people out there that haven't lost sight of what was important the whole time. And that's your competition. So if you're trying to get into the system, I mean, there are still guys out there that are still restaking for longer, believe it or not, even with the low APRs, because everything's going to change when the dollar price is up 20, 30x. Right. And now you got what the phenomenon of the last cycle, if you remember, you guys, that you could actually produce monthly returns in dollar terms that was meaningful, that could help you hit escape velocity and get out of your day-to-day, right? So that'll come back when the price is high enough.
Yep. Well, you look at this note here from Hodler, right? 9K, it was about like 9-10K per t-shirt at the last cycle top. Well, the t-shirt rate is up at 42K roughly. Well, a little bit less than 42K. And so at all-time highs, that's a $20,000 t-shirt. So the t-shirts by then have already gotten more expensive. And how are you going to even possibly be able to do that? You know, you imagine how hard it is to get people now to think about it, and they're like, yeah, buy a $400 t-shirt. No, I'm not interested. But you know, when they are interested at 40K, they won't be able to get one. You know?
Yeah, straight up money from the outside coming straight into Hex. No, but I'll say this because we have our own projects that we're proud of. You know, Fast has a great product out there. We have our own with the solid index. You know, these are the ones like 2Fucks, Communist, Solidex, Axis Fire, Nope, PTGC and UFO have proven to be main household names. Now, some of these are going to be levers for you to actually capture more Hex later on because they're going to be so successful. And so there will be other alt plays that will allow you to capture more of it. It's the same concept as why you're not bringing your grandma's $10,000 of inheritance into Ethereum for the potential 20 to 30x at max, right? You're not, because it's just the gains aren't there to rotate that into a meaningful enough amount of Hex long term. And by the time that kind of plays out for ETH, let's say Hex might already be up 20, like its own like 30 to 60x off the floor. So like you've really lost ground when things really start to move.
Yep.
Bull markets are very punishing, right?
Would it surprise you, because we value different opinions here, would it surprise you that I'd be more comfortable putting $10,000 in ETH than I would in a brand new altcoin? Would that surprise you?
Well,
or at least if I really wanted to do it, I'd split it, you know?
Well, so no, it doesn't surprise me at all. And that's very sound logic. And what a normal human being should be thinking is, if I'm going to bring in my last $10,000 of savings into a cryptocurrency, you're going to want to take the safer bet naturally. But then when you, the thought should be though, is like, okay, if I double my money and now I got $20,000 of ETH, I should be taking 10% of that potentially, or some marginal amount, and rotating it into something that can outperform in a bull market.
Like PulseChain.
And it's scot-free, right? Because you didn't put in the original 10 into that. You put the original 10 into something safer, and then you rotated 10%. This is why bull markets are so explosive, is because you get lots of people sitting on lots of gains and safe things first, and then they get hungry and greedy for more gains. And then there's this, even if just 10% of the value rotates out of the bigger cap coins into the smaller caps, you get enormous returns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my target would be, I would think PulseChain, and you know, it always comes back, because I just reiterate, I'm back to the course. but I recognize the opportunities, right, that are there with all these other ecosystems, my ecosystem, yours, and Solid Index. And in fact, let's talk about that for a moment, because a couple of new things came up too. Randy Hilarski, thank you for the $20 super chat, my friend. I hope your bags are packed for Hex and Solidex. That's true. I didn't get around to doing it today, and now I missed it. I was planning to do a stream on like a crispy nugget stream on Solidex, but it probably still is pertinent. Man, the pulse ratio on Solidex is so low. I mean, it's still near bottom. And in fact, I've started my own stuff that I'm doing, but I guess I won't get into that. But anyways, the idea.
I think it's worth talking about. We've been holding back on talking about alpha for Solidex for long enough now, and there's enough bullish things that have happened. It's worth talking about. So, you know, the personal approach that I've taken with my own stuff is I have not talked a lot about it over the years, because it wasn't important to shill. And what has become apparent now is there's so much money backing Solidex and the index, like, you guys need to know that there's this opportunity here to actually trade and make money. And not only is there an opportunity to trade and make money in USD terms, there's now a new Telegram bot that can allow you to actually set limit orders and actually get orders to execute. Like, we've been wanting limit orders for years, and this is the first tool that I've used that I've actually had both of my limit orders hit in immediately. When I, like, within a 24-hour period, I put in the limit order, the price wicks down to my zone, it DCAs in. It's so awesome. And so, like, Solidex has
Solid Trader. Yeah,
this is with the Solid Trader bot. So for those of you guys that don't know, there's a Telegram you can go to figure out more about this thing. I don't know if one of you guys can put the URL in there, but or one of your ref links, or there's a referral program you can make more money on. You know, if you get people to trade under you, and I think if enough people understand how to use it, it's going to make us a lot of money, like as a cohort. So because there's so much value backing Solidex, we're talking more than $10 million a bid, meaning Hex, Pulse, PulseX, and Ink. There's like over a $10 million of liquidity on the bid side. Because of that, you have like 4 to 6 pools that are constantly being arbitraged every single day with hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like just today, the Solidex Rat Pulse pool on 9-inch did 126 grand of volume on the daily. Just that one pool. There's like 6 of these things, and so you have to look at all the pools and see how much volume is running through them. If you're not trying to capture lows and sell highs on that in USD terms, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. Like there was a day on I think it was July 6th. The price wicked down to $7.50, and by the end of the day, it was like $9.86. So it was a 20% move in USD terms, and it was mostly just bots arbing between these pools to service the core market. So Solidex finds itself in the middle of the core market as a tremendous tool for capturing huge returns on the day-to-day. And that's a service that the Firewhale is providing the community by creating a store of value that's literally backed with more core liquidity than anything else on the chain. Yeah. And now you got the tool too, the trader bot. So I think our goal is
not like a fly-by-night bot. Like it's not like a cheap Telegram bot. Like he paid big money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring that to PulseChain. It was like an established bot. He bought.
I know the benevolence is huge, you know.
Yeah.
On that part of it. Yeah.
So I think like that's a call to action. There's a like Randy, myself, Crispy, and some of the other admins and Fast as well. Our goal is to create tutorials so that you guys know how to use the stuff, or give you examples of setups to look for free, because you know benevolence is the way of the world in PulseChain. It just seems to have worked the best for the most number of coins. Like if you are benevolent in your actions and you rotate money back into these things, it ends up paying multiples. And so we'll continue to try to provide value and give you guys insight on how to do this stuff, because I know a lot of times people get stuck. They're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, and then they never really put it into action. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of on us to give you guys the tools to know how to do this stuff.
Stable pools.
We have stable pools.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my ones, right? Because I've been talking about that for a long time, but people at least learning how to do some of this stuff. It's tough. I mean, you know, we have a wide range of people and skill sets, you know, and you know, there are people that simply are happy with holding their hex and staking it, and they have the ladder, and then, but so many of us, you know, I don't pretend to be a hex only maxi, because I'm not, right? I mean, I feel the strongest about hex, but as soon as I started pushing buttons to get Pulse and PulseX, what am I going to do? Like throw that away? I suppose I could have tried to trade it into Hex early on. I even said that at one point to Axis. I really should have just swapped everything into Hex, and then I would just not have to worry about anything, right? But yeah, it's just so many different things. So it requires, it's kind of like this onion that you unpeel, right? This ever expanding crypto knowledge base, like of all this stuff. But I mean, anybody listening, you know, if you're not into it, don't go into it, right? But it is DeFi.
I think Hex is cheap enough right now that you can still just play the Hex game, but eventually it's going to be like, well, if you didn't put in the work to try to capture Hex in other ways, you're your only last option is to stake for HEX for 15 years. And like there's other ways at this point in the cycle where you can still capture way more HEX by leveraging some of these other tools. Before it really starts to go nuts.
Those tools, like Solidex, huge amount of LP, right? Like through that. One of the, I guess I may not want to use the H word. Do I want to say the H word? I've said the H word before. Helgo. I'm not sure if we should talk about it. Right? But, hey, the cat's out of the bag. That sucker pumped like hell today, Helgo.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of these projects made by a whole bunch of HEX OGs way back at the beginning who apparently understood a hell of a lot more about DeFi than I ever understood, and still don't understand because I was kind of catching up for all this time. The only thing is I was like, hey, I like goats. It was based on Helgorian and the whole goat meme and some other stuff, right? So it's like one of the first meme coins. So it's kind of funny story. And so, of course, I've got a little bit of Helgo. But man, has that turned out to be an overperformer versus HEX. And but it's not, and I say versus HEX, I don't mean against HEX. It is baked into HEX, man. HEX is baked into it. $4 million worth of liquidity. And
it's one of the biggest liquidity pools for HEX is against Helgo, right?
Yeah, all about the the HEX liquidity pool and staking HEX and earning more because you're staking HEX. And so I don't mean as a detriment at all. Hey, honestly, for Jamie in the chat, dude, nobody ever really talked to me about Sparta, and I didn't go do much research. So I can't even mention it, other than I just mentioned it. But I see you out there.
I mostly just know that it also has a lot of liquidity against HEX, right? So Sparta's had a good couple days because HEX has had a good couple days. I can't tell you much more than that.
Yeah, I felt kind of like contained off from a lot of this stuff. You know, like there wasn't people coming to me and asking me to look into it. So with like Helgo or Sparta, any of these, like we were kind of like excommunicated from those groups, and not really, those people didn't really come to us and want to share their ideas. So that's on the burdens on the founders of those coins to really come to us and say, hey, look, I have this thing that's great. You know, don't just come into our threads and say, oh, this coin's got a shitload of LP. That doesn't impress me. It's like, well, what else does it do? Like, you know, or why should we care? Helgo proves itself through price performance, right? So versus, you know, and it's versus HEX, like it's actually going bananas versus HEX. So that kind of earned its merits just on price performance alone. Sparta, like last time I checked, it was just losing value versus HEX, and it didn't have other pools like Solidex does, where it's got all these other pools to arb between. So it's like a different kind of a setup. So I feel ignorant on that one.
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out to Conspiracy Crypto. Yeah, dude, we saw those charts going crazy yesterday and today. I did the same thing. I was like, do I want more Helgo? And it's like, no, I had to hold off. You know, everybody make your own decisions, DeFi. But I mean, you know, buying as it hits the top is probably not the best bet for me. But yeah, something that maybe you could talk about, Axis. This is probably a good one. Ted's bringing it up, but it also came up this week with a co-founder, not a co-founder, but another founder that I know that brought up the question. Like, so what's the deal? What is the deal with Hart's Law? Is it in effect or what? And we had a little short conversation about this, so I'm putting you on the spot. But can you describe why or why not some of these tokens are not seeing the movements that people expect that they should be seeing?
Yeah, so a lot of times people think that it's as simple as just connecting a coin to a Richard coin and then it's supposed to go up. And generally speaking, if you connect a coin to a Richard coin and it's just only one pool, let's just use Pulse as an example because that's performing quite well. Then as if it sources its price singly and solely from just the price of Pulse because it's its only pool, then if Pulse goes up, it's going to go up an equal or slightly greater amount in dollar terms. The issue that people run into is like there'll be more than one pool out there. So like let's say well, I'll drop Timmy's coin, TFC. So TFC has done like 50,000% or something crazy in like a few months. And if its pool now has grown to the size of, let's just say, like $200,000, and then you come in and you buy a little bit of Timmy's coin and you put it versus your coin, and let's say you put $2,000 in there, the ratio of the size of your little pool of $2,000 versus that big $200,000 pool is such a big gap that not very much of somebody's order is going to route through your little pool. So you're not going to get the same kind of magnetic pull as you would if it was all of it or half. So like if you had half of the value, so it's like, let's say the main pool is 200K, and then you come in and you buy a bunch of TFC, and now that pool is now 200 grand. Now you have two pools of equal weight that are competing for the orders. So it's really about the weight or the gravitas of the pools in proportion to each other that really drives Hart's law, which is what makes Solidex such an incredible play, is because these are multi-million-dollar pools in competition with each other, so that it becomes like a middle man token in the middle of, look, if you want to play with Fire Whales Inc. or as PulseX or as Pulse or as Hex, well, you're going to have to deal with the weight of the other pools competing with each other as well. So then there's a lot of ARB opportunity in there.
There's a ton of liquidity against Inc. with Solidex.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Millions.
And so there you have it, girls. Size matters.
Size matters. That's
Size
well
matters.
put. I could have just said that and dropped the mic.
Size matters. I keep saying it. And my favorite token, Surgical Trainers token, STM. I see Pesky Girl. Hello, Pesky Girl. How you doing? So that experiment just continues to go pretty well for Johnny. Johnny Chaos was in the chat. He may not be here any longer, but this was a good demonstration again of some liquidity plays. He had set up that token with a sunk amount of USDC at $1 per token, what he called the cookie jar, and put all of the tokens into a V3. The only way anybody can get them out is by buying them out of the V3. And based on that, that token has stayed pretty damn stable. Now I don't know if it could withstand. And since you're a stable founder here, Mr. Fast, I'm not sure if it could withstand like pure strong market forces. But it's pretty interesting to me that he created a stable coin, roughly. I mean, it ranges. People buy it. It goes up maybe $1.05, but roughly it stayed pretty stable at like between $1 and $1.03, which is pretty similar to what I see with regular stable coins.
If the V3 is limited, to above $1, then yeah, it'd be hard to make the price go down. Somebody in theory could sacrifice their money and create V2 positions and dump it on themselves. I don't think anybody's going to be motivated to do that. So yeah, it's a good experiment.
Yeah, so it's been pretty cool to watch that for sure. So there's my shout out, Pesky, on STM, the stem. I keep asking him where my stem cells are, but he says no, it's a surgical trainer model. It's not stem cells. All right. So what else is going on?
Well, on this topic of liquidity, like I think it bears looking a little bit deeper so people have a visual to go along with it. Let me share my screen.
You gonna share your screen?
Yeah.
I can't see your screen.
It's important to see this. Like we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but if you can't see what's happening, it's not going to click. So this is just the liquidity on PulseX V2 for Solidex. Just this recent pump on Hex and Pulse has now taken the liquidity from these lows down here around like 5-6 million and pushed it nearly up to 9 million again. And this is just on this exchange. There's another $500,000 to $1 million on 9-inch as well, and a bunch on 9mm as well. So you're over 10 million. But look at the size of these pools. I mean, $6.4 million of Solidex and PulseX.
That's crazy.
$1 million on Hex Solidex. That was half as much not that long ago. And it's not like what changed was that a lot of the Hex got bought out of the pool, but it rose the dollar value of both. All right, you have to bear with me here. This, how PulseX is kind of finicky sometimes. It resets itself. But point being, like these are hugely weighted pools, right? And they're in competition for each other's value, basically. So there's a shift of value that goes around. That's the opportunity. All right, let's look at the HEX price because I just wanted to do that because why not? This is so exciting to me. Like this, I've been posting on Twitter semi-regularly lately because I wait till like everything confirmation comes in. These days I don't really do the moon math so much anymore because it's kind of fruitless. But this is what I'm seeing. So we came up here and we closed the weekly above 1 cent and put these lows in. So if you remember back, let's see, when was this? July 14th. The number 3 biggest sacrificer in the game for PulseChain and PulseX dumped all their PulseX, all their Pulse, all their HEX. And the community stepped in here and saved the price. And that was an indication to me that HEX was getting ready to go again, was the amount of buyback that came in here on these double bottom higher low candle wicks here on the weekly chart. So you had like the lows of last year, then the higher lows in March. And then when this big whale comes in and liquidates out for ETH, twice protected at that level. So I said the weekly MACD was fighting for its life, basically, is what I said on the tweet. And that's exactly what happened. And you made a third higher low. So that's like a confluence of data. And here we are. Price is now ripping off that level. And it all shows up here in the MACD. So if you look at these big yellow arrows down here, the first bull cross came in last September. And that resulted in a 8.7x move on HEX.
Yeah.
So now we have, for our second time here, the same exact setup, but less liabilities than last time. So it's like, okay, well, just simply put, what's 770%? Where does that put you? Up here at almost 4 cents. 4 cents, 5 cents is a pretty important level for HEX.
Yeah, it's a good start.
It's significant, even going back to the PulseChain testnet V3 top and launch, because when the price came back down on Ehex at that point, there was an OA brick of liquidity between 3 and 5 cents. And that's basically where we've been unable to cross on PHEX ever since, is that 3 to 5 cent area. So this is basically projecting, if you can clear weekly resistance up here around, 3.1 cents and start closing candles above that on a weekly basis, that, 3 to 5 cents is the new range to play for a while. We'll lock in these lows and then this range will be gone, and then we'll start something new so that the chart will shrink down and we'll have higher price targets to look forward to as price comes up here and you start to really see some adoption and stuff. Hopefully, I don't know how long we range up here, but then it gets more parabolic and the consolidations gets faster and faster the further you get into the bull. So this is what I'm looking at, is that 3 cent level. Closing above that for a few weeks would make me feel good about a new range being created, and that all of these lows are in for good.
Yeah, potentially never to be revisited again, ever.
We've been waiting for that for a long time. But now that there's not extra HEX to dump from stakes, there's a better chance. Yeah, better chance of holding those levels than before.
Yeah, I was looking with Johnny Sachs at some data, or he asked me to look at some data. I pulled it up. And just looking at what we have for liabilities and HEX outflows from stakes, that just assuming people end them, right? They're actually going to be on a downtrend when you exclude the OA for the next year and a half, I think. So it just means that, yes, people will have HEX. People, of course, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. But it just looks so damn bullish to me, right, that there'd just be less and less HEX coming out for quite a while. Now, people could emergency end stake and change it. And that's why we have that random pinata theory, right? But, yeah, pretty bullish, man.
So things to watch for is like bridge inflows, new users. What else? Emergency end stakes and like the buyback off those dumps. That'll be very telling. Fundamental things like getting past the last few regulatory hurdles surrounding Richard.
Do you have the ability to pull up the pulse ratio to HEX? I won't be able to do it. I won't be able to do it justice, but I think
Yeah, here it is.
I think anybody who follows Mr. Chaos probably should think about this. He was talking about the idea that these, that the whole big play here isn't so much about the USD, but the changing of the pulse ratio to hex.
He was talking about two. So when I think the going sacrifice rate for pulse to hex was 2,000 pulse for a hex. So there are some hex bulls that think that is the target, because that's the exchange rate from the original sacrifice was 2,000. So where does that put this in the grand scheme? This chart, it puts it way up here, which means that in pulse terms, hex, if that is the target, will 6.7x more from where it is today. Not all in one shot.
Why is that the target? Why are we saying
because
that's
that
target?
was so speculation is that was the rate when you sacrifice hex for the best rate of what you got is 2,000 pulse for one hex. So like the peak, we talk about sac rate at 0.0001 or whatever for pulse. This is what the hex rate was. So there's a cohort of HEX OGs that say this is the target. The real target is to get back to baseline in hex terms for pulse. I'm sorry so pulse to hex. So that means that it means that hex is undervalued right now to where it should be, from that perspective. But there's so many things that can play into this that doesn't have to be the target necessarily, but just that is a speculative theory on where this could go in the long run. And if we look back to what we did before against pulse, it's already done ironically here 369% from wick low to wick high in this last move. Right now with this kind of force, it's already up 95% in 2 weeks. Like you project that forward, hex may just continue to do this to pulse. Think about what hex did to Ethereum last cycle. It did hundreds of X versus Ethereum. And so a measly 7X versus pulse is totally on the table. Hex destroyed ETH last cycle. Granted, ETH was older, more mature, more liquid, and didn't have as much upside, but still risky, right? Less risky. And pulse, I think you'll find pulse is less risky in the long term as well. So then that means like if you want to take on risk and risk is on, hex might be the play.
Think about this. Like we talk about APRs and the OA. Will the OA bring back APRs? I like the concept of like retroactive APRs. Like if you stake Hex today and APR is whatever it is 3%, but then Hex goes to $5 and you calculate your APR based on what you paid versus what it's worth when your stake ends. Those could still be some very interesting APRs, even if the OA does not increase inflation.
Yes.
Does that jive? I know I'm kind of pulling that out of left field, but it makes sense to me in my head.
I think what I captured out of that was I was thinking about other things was that you said that USD price appreciation is going to result in large APRs on Hex.
It's like the APR would still be the same. Like it could still be 3%, but if you bought it at a penny and you're selling it at $5 and you calculate based on the penny you paid, that would be, not astronomical
3% anymore, right? Because now you're up X's in terms of what your in principal amount is worth. That's correct. And that's why
not to mention it saved you from yourself from selling it halfway to the $5 mark. Not financial advice, but I think that is going to be the case.
To that point, you could see a lot of people buy lots of Hex under 10 cents and then hold it for a long time, sell it at every 10-cent increment on the way up to let's say 80 cents. And then they've taken enough off the table that they've been made so whole that they're good. And they're like, all right, well, it's down 50% and I don't know if it's going to come back. So I'm just going to stake it what's left because there's no point in me. I've already cashed out so much, right? So that is definitely going to be a play that people are going to utilize, no doubt about it. Yeah. And that's going to result in much higher APRs relative to their cost basis is the point.
Yeah, in USD. Yeah, because it could turn into be, you know, several dollars a day per t-shirt, you know, if not more, right? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, a t-shirt that pays you $7 a day is a hell of a lot different than a t-shirt that's paying you a penny and a half, right?
You know, people said it was impossible, that Bitcoin was unsustainable and there'd be a mining death spiral. Well, that never happened, guys. Like, it never happened. Why? Because there's a base of hodlers of last resort that are in it to win it, and they want to just be the biggest players in the system forever. And with every cycle, you get more people that are hodlers of last resort, and the system becomes more validated. And so then you get smaller drawdowns, more long-term belief. I imagine in the next 15 years from today, there will be HEX treasury companies that will get made. Why? Because you got enough retail guys that did well enough on it, that hold enough percentage of the network, that they're going to be like, all right, I just have so much. Let's financialize this thing, and we'll stake it for yield, and we'll create our own company, and we'll sell shares, and it's gonna keep happening. It's gonna keep happening with the coins that really get big and have network effect. It's not going to stop at Ethereum.
Why wait? Do it now.
Well, why wait would be because you want this cycle still only cycle 2 for HEX, and there may be better opportunities for you as a smaller player to play the trading game. But with some percentage of it, it makes sense to hedge by having some of it out there for the long haul. Like myself, I still think that my one big stake per year, every year for 15 years means that, and now it's only going to be like 8 or 9 more years. I'll have a 15-year stake coming off every year perpetually. And that'll feel really good because it'll have been a hedge that didn't cost me a lot in the past. That could be worth a lot in the future. And I still had the flexibility with my liquid holdings to make moves throughout the cycles.
Yeah, it sure feels like getting 1 billion HEX or 1 million HEX per year would be a hell of a deal.
Oh, big time. If we're talking like some of these higher price targets, for sure.
Zero Hexana. I can't spell that. I can't pronounce this.
Oaxaca.
Sure feels like bear market is over, boys. Buying higher is bittersweet. It is. Just between us here and not all the new people. Yeah, I'm like, I have that challenge, because I'm like, I know we're going to talk about this. I know we're super excited about things. There are X's, but the R&R is different the higher we go. But yeah, just thinking about that R&R and just the fact there will be people going to come in and unfortunately going to buy the tops. Here's Pip Shinobi has a question for you, Axis, because last time I said I don't think big players know. But what do you think?
It's not even on their radar in a real investment sense yet. And even if it were, some guy that's part of like the OTC desk tells his boss about this ecosystem, and then the boss is like, oh, but the founder owns 89%, and there's just not, we don't have enough weight yet to prove that the OA is benevolent. I don't think yet at this size, with the liquidity being where it is, yet to be really accepted in a big way by those guys. And I have a member that works with some of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world to do options and perpetuals contracts and stuff of this nature. And when PulseChain comes up in these kinds of meetings, it's not even considered a real crypto yet. So I know that the ball is not in the right place yet. It's not in their court yet to make a move like that. But what did Bitcoin prove was that, retail movements can get big enough where it's too big to ignore at that point. And that's the point in which they would have to consider adoption of it. So the burden is really
the OA staking activity may help that story, when it's like, okay, the OA is staked, like all of their bags for, 15 years or what have you. I think that would add some credibility.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to add that in too. Somebody else had mentioned that in the chat.
We don't even know. I mean, you could speculate on that one day the OA might have to take it upon themselves to create their own treasury company, make a regulatory clear body that controls this majority interest of this network in the form of Pulse, PulseX, HEX, potentially Inc., and that it's controlled by more than one guy at that point. And then, then they could issue, that whole organization could issue in a decentralized sort of way or a company sort of way, shares of of that. And that could be the reserve that backs it. So I wouldn't rule that out either, especially as you go forward in time. I think money and financialization of things is going to look a lot different. Like it's obviously a lot different today than it was 20 years ago. We didn't have crypto 20 years ago. So I think it's just the world's just going to get more and more weird the farther you go down this path. And at some point, the OA is going to be looked at like one of the biggest treasuries in crypto.
Should be pretty cool.
Which it actually is, right? Like 166,000 ETH, which will be worth $1 billion when ETH hits $6,000. Like that is one of the bigger treasuries in crypto.
Yeah, there's no guarantees, right, with this sort of thing, and that's where the opportunity is like we can't know the outcome because it hasn't happened yet. Same for Bitcoin in the early days, same for ETH in the early days. There was no guarantee of success. There was no guarantee that governments would get on board and adopt this stuff. That didn't stop it from occurring. So you take the risk you're comfortable with on this journey, and if enough of us come together and propagate the network effect, I mean, who knows how far we could take it. It really comes down to the community. It really does boil down to the community in the end.
It does.
Onboarding, education, hoarding of coins, creating real world businesses that buy back into the assets you care about. That is all important to creating long-term sustainability and longevity and value creation for users.
Whew. So what else did you want to talk about fast? Was there anything else we needed to make sure we covered before we were wrapped up?
I think we covered most of the good stuff, right? Like we got the pump on PulseChain. We have people building on PulseChain. I'm building, you're building, Axis is probably building.
We're all building.
And we have, we have Richard Hart saying bullish things. We shouldn't forget about massive, never before seen marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's coming up pretty soon.
Oh, days away, yep. Maybe.
I think maybe months away, but it's on the calendar, right? Like there's going to be 200,000 mailings of some sort of electronic device, probably to high value people, followed by millions more, is my understanding. And this will be a new form of marketing for crypto. I think it will have an effect. I think it will hit the national news, and people will be talking about how the spam king is back, but in a positive way.
I'm down with it. I'd like to get any kind of publicity again. That'd be nice.
Totally.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot.
On the notion. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna say, on the notion of marketing, I mean, how could we forget about the importance of communists in all of this? It's largely went under the radar, and it just in the last 126 days, it's done 8.6x versus Pulse. And like, if enough people start to want to understand how this works, I mean, it's literally onboarding people into hex staking. If more hex is getting staked and locked up to get the communists are rising in value. And then communists is rising in value right now. It's at 8x or whatever.
Yeah, that chart, those charts look scary, man. They look scary, man. All the way, all-time highs on against hex, all-time highs nearly against Pulse.
Yeah, so if this trend continues, people can get real value back. I don't know what the coupon rate is today. It's probably around 8 to 10%.
Yeah,
it means like if you put in $100,000, you can, if you stake, let's not use that big number. Let's use 10 grand of hex. Like, let's say you bought $1,000 of hex today and it went up 10x. Now you have 10 grand of hex and you decide to stake it for 15 years. Well, you're going to get $800 back today. But that number could change based on the adoption rate of COM. So it's proven that it can trade in a 10x range. The question becomes is like, oh, is this thing sustainably going to be able to trade up 20 or 30x so that when someone goes to stake hex for 15 years, they can get 20, 30 or 40% of their value back? And that's the big question, is like, I don't know at what point people figure out the power of this automatic marketing feature of gives you additional reason to stake HEX. Like if enough money got behind COM, let's say the Godwell got behind COM and plopped 1 billion HEX on the liquidity pool with COM. Well, now he's basically paying the community to stake their HEX for 15 years. And then they can just dump the COM at a 10% rate into the pool, get their HEX back, 10% of their HEX back. If enough people realize what just happened, or that liquidity pool gets burned away, so it's there forever, coupon rate could go up to any number, really. With the Access Alive, ecosystem, which kind of served as a test bed for higher coupon rates. Like, we've shown that once it gets to 100% coupon rate, people buy Access off the market and they commit it to the system, and then they dump the start payout to get more Access, and then they're removing Access from the market. Same thing for HEX. If the COM coupon rate gets up to 50% or 60% or 70%, and you could stake, these big players can start staking, 50 grand or 100 grand of HEX and get back half that value immediately and dump it into Godwell's pool. Godwell wins because more HEX got staked for 15 years, got burnt, and he didn't have to pay that much in the form of loss of HEX, because he can produce HEX at a faster rate than anybody else anyways, because he's got so much staking power and t-shirt power. So like, I just, if it really gets adopted by someone with enough power, the COM is going to automatically pay people to stake HEX for long enough that there's not going to be any HEX left, period. That's just what's mathematically, that's how it works. And people are missing this. So we're going, and we're going to make the user interface better. We're going to we're going to make a home run here for you guys so that you can see all of the data in front of you, and it's going to be amazing. And I don't envision a future where Communis isn't an important part of HEX going forward.
Oh yeah, well, it's there. It's not going away. Too much sunk liquidity at this point, I believe. Though it's relatively smaller than some of the other things, but I mean, it's there as a reward. People are getting it, they're staking it, they're earning off of it. So yeah, I think you're right that it'll be there. Switching gears a little bit, somebody's asking about Hedron. I still haven't heard anything from the camp over there, from Alex and whatnot. So I really don't have anything to say about Hedron at the moment.
I think the thing that you can talk about, Crispy, I'll let you have the floor, is the importance of Actuator and how it gave Icosa Hedron value.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty cool one. And kind of as Follow Podler was asking about the auctions. I know the auctions are continuing, but again, I've kind of taken my eye off of that. They become super competitive in terms of Hedron, and people with tons of Hedron are able to get those and win them. But the tie-in that Axis mentioned is the Actuator protocol. You can go to my channel. I've got a couple of interviews with Bill from Actuator. I've also done a couple of videos on that. But simply, if you have an HSI and you use their website, their protocol, you can actually borrow against an HSI right now and receive fungible tokens that you can then go do something with. So if you had something you needed to do, you can go do that, and you can actually take basically a loan and put up your HSI for that. And in return, what you get are these HTT tokens, which are HEX time tokens, which are just to guarantee if anybody buys that token that it's worth a HEX on the day that the expiration date is hit. I won't go into too much more detail than that, but if people are heavy HSI holders, you should at least be aware of it. You should know something about it. You don't give up the rights to your token. You can always pay back your loan, yada yada yada. But it's been a pretty cool liquidity play. I know I've seen a lot about it because I've been doing those streams. I've been talking to Bill. Randy knows a little bit about it too. He's saying it's gonna gain more momentum. I think it will too. So yeah, if you get a chance, I'll throw Actuator.finance out here in the chat. If people want to go take a look at it, they can go take a look at the website. It's one of these fully audited types of protocols. Hodler saying that I don't know if somebody wants to pull. I don't know if you can pull it up there, Mr. Fast. But somebody's saying he just reposted a privacy portfolio tracker. Let's see what we got.
So it's the one, I think it's the one that's linked on pulsechain.com. PulseChain dashboard V1.2 is live. Read the thread below to learn more about the update and find out why PulseChain dashboard is the best privacy first dashboard. So you're not giving up your data, I presume. So I'm pretty sure this is the one that's linked right on pulsechain.com. I will double check. PulseChain dashboard. Yeah, it's the same one.
That's pretty important. I was, I had the opportunity, however you want to say it, of talking with like a, mega millionaire guy, right, that came onto PulseChain over the last year or so, and they were completely appalled
by the lack of
by just how people were chasing the wallets around. So it's kind of like a real thing. Some people just don't want that kind of attention, even if they, they just don't want the attention,
Totally. Yeah. I think it is, like why, like I don't put my bank account data, on my t-shirt. Why would I do it with my crypto wallet? I think that the right to privacy should extend to blockchain to some degree, though it is nice to be able to verify things on blockchain. So there's a balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Richard posted about this, I bet you it's worth checking out. He doesn't do that very often.
Yeah, I try not to fade things he's talking about. All right. Joe Quinn's saying, I think Joe Quinn's the right pronunciation. As he's talking about Hedron still out here. That the let's see, app Icosa was the first page at RH tickets to be tweeted. I don't know what that means exactly. IRH, and then OA has already interacted with the liquidity pool for Hedron. I don't know if he did or didn't. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so I mean, it was the first HEX derivative that he made mention of, but it was also the first one that he actively tried to put a stop to.
But
so
not,
it's
not on PulseChain.
Did he make like a buy wall or something, right? Like,
yeah, he was willing to give away his Hedron that was minted for free from his OA stakes to buy HEX back from the community as they were dumping HEX like crazy for Hedron.
Yeah.
So
well, I would like to see everybody has Hedron do well. How about that?
Sure. I mean, anyone that staked HEX and got the 10x multiplier bonuses is probably still wanting to see Hedron do some good things, and I think that probably applies for us.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, Alex was talking about Icosa 1, like version 2, right? So though he hasn't talked about it much for a while, I hope he does it one day.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Hey, before we wrap up, I got one last thing I just want to mention to everybody. You guys know a little bit about it because I talked to you about it, but I have a side project that I'm working on. Joaquim. Sorry about that, Joaquim. That's the right pronunciation of his name. I have this new side project that I'm working on, which has to do with crypto storytelling and telling stories about crypto in order to bring more attention to crypto and value. So creating that value. And so you guys may hear some more about that from me. If somebody out there has a burning itch to tell a story, true or fiction, about crypto, you fancy yourself a writer and an entertainer, let me know, and I'll get you a link over to the Telegram. But basically, creating a channel that I'm calling Crypto F Yeah. All right. So
think of it like Coinfessions, but extended cut.
Yeah. That's a good one. So
is this like a dating website, or like are there pictures? Like how does it work?
Oh, there will definitely be someone that gets married because of these stories, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, Sol, thanks for the 99-cent super chat. My computer must be getting super sticky. It must be because that's super sticker. I
knew you were getting excited over there about the HEX price, but geez, crispy.
Yeah, it's going up. So thank you for that. Yeah, so this will be a little adventure. Like I said, I'll get more information out to everybody as we go along. But again, you know, I don't know. I might be a niche thing. It might not be, something for everybody, but a lot of people listen to audiobooks. And I think there's an opportunity to do some crypto storytelling, to bring more attention to crypto and to PulseChain. And if that's a venue and a way to do it, we're going to try it. So that's all I got for you.
All right, 830 live on Twitter and probably a few hundred more on YouTube. And I don't know who else is streaming this, but pretty good showing tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I know I enjoyed sharing my ideas. Expect more of them. Come find me at accesslive.com.
Accesslive.com. Thank you for that. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I just dropped you the note, and you just jumped on, so it was good to see you. All right, Mr. Fast, you got anything to say here?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at FastAbdul or via one of my protocols, either 2phux.io or inkprinter.com. That's incprinter.com. Links to Telegram rooms there. I will not DM you. I will not send you a private message. That is a scammer. Everybody stay safe.
Yeah, especially safe. And with that, like and subscribe, folks. I'm going to go ahead and stay crispy. You guys stay crispy, and we'll see you the next time around. Let's see if we can actually play an outro that works.